The deafening screech of metal against metal pierced the quiet suburban intersection as Zachary Nielsen slammed on his brakes, his heart nearly stopping at the sight of another car spinning out of control directly in his path. Too late to avoid impact, he braced himself, one arm instinctively reaching toward the empty passenger seat, a father's reflex to protect, even when his 8-year-old daughter Lily wasn't with him. The collision was jarring but mercifully not head-on. The other vehicle, a sleek silver BMW, had skidded on black ice and sideswiped his weathered Honda Civic before spinning into a nearby snowbank. Adrenaline coursed through Zachary's veins as he fumbled with his seatbelt. His first thought was of Lily, thank God she was at school, but his second was for whoever had been driving the other car. He pushed his door open against the gathering snow and rushed toward the BMW, where he could see a woman slumped over the steering wheel. "Hey, are you okay?" He called, his breath forming clouds in the frigid January air. When she didn't respond immediately, panic surged through him. He yanked the door open, gently placing a hand on her shoulder. "Madam, can you hear me?" The woman stirred, lifting her head slowly. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, but her eyes, a startling shade of green, focused on him with surprising clarity. "What happened?" she asked, her voice steady despite the circumstances. "Black ice. You spun out," Zachary explained, quickly assessing her condition. "I'm Zach Nielsen." "You're bleeding. Do you hurt anywhere else?" "Diana," she replied, wincing as she touched her forehead. "Diana Fairchild. My wrist. I think I might have sprained it when I grabbed the wheel." Zachary noticed how she cradled her left arm. "We should get you checked out." "There's an urgent care center about 5 minutes from here." "My phone," Diana mumbled, looking around the car. "I need to call my assistant." "Let's worry about you first," Zachary insisted, his tone gentle but firm, the same voice he used when Lily was being stubborn about bedtime. "My car's still running. The urgent care is close, and then you can make all the calls you need." Diana hesitated, clearly used to being in control, but something in Zachary's steady gaze seemed to reassure her. "All right," she conceded, allowing him to help her from the vehicle. As they walked carefully to his car, Zachary noticed details he'd missed in the initial panic: her elegant camel coat, the diamond studs in her ears, the designer handbag she clutched with her good hand. This woman was clearly wealthy, making his own shabby Civic seem even more pathetic than usual. "I'm sorry about the mess," he said as he cleared a stack of children's library books from the passenger seat. "My daughter's a bit of a bookworm." "You have a daughter?" Diana asked, settling into the seat. "Lily, she's 8. "Smartest kid you'll ever meet," he said, unable to keep the pride from his voice even in these circumstances. He closed her door and hurried around to the driver's side, brushing snow from his coat before getting in. As he navigated the slippery roads to the urgent care center, Zachary explained that he was a high school shop teacher who'd taken the day off for a parent-teacher conference at Lily's school. Diana listened, occasionally pressing a tissue to her forehead. "And her mother?" Diana asked quietly. "She left when Lily was 3, Zachary answered, his voice carefully neutral. "Decided family life wasn't for her. It's been just Lily and me since then." Diana nodded, offering no judgment or pity, something Zachary appreciated. "What about you?" he asked, grateful for the distraction of conversation. "What do you do?" "I run a technology company," she said simply. "Fairchild Solutions." Zachary nearly drove off the road, even he recognized that name. Fairchild Solutions was one of the country's leading tech firms specializing in renewable energy applications, which would make Diana Fairchild. "You're that Diana Fairchild?" he asked, incredulous. "The CEO who was on the cover of Business Weekly last month." A small smile played at her lips. "Guilty as charged. And I'm driving you to an urgent care in a car that's older than my daughter," Zachary muttered, suddenly self-conscious. "You're driving me because you stopped to help when others might not have," Diana corrected him. "That's worth more than any luxury vehicle." At the urgent care center, Zachary insisted on helping Diana inside despite her protests that she could manage. The receptionist recognized Diana immediately, her eyes widening as she expedited the paperwork. "I should call my assistant," Diana said, reaching for her phone, then wincing as she jarred her injured wrist. "Here," Zachary offered, taking her phone. "Just tell me the name and I'll find the contact." "Marcus Stevens," she said, watching as he scrolled through her contacts. As Zachary handed the phone back, their fingers brushed, and for a brief moment, something electric passed between them. Diana spoke briefly with her assistant, explaining the situation and instructing him to have her car towed and to reschedule her afternoon meetings. Zachary tried not to eavesdrop, but he couldn't help overhearing snippets about conference calls and quarterly projections, reminders of how different their worlds were. When a nurse called Diana's name, she looked at Zachary. "You don't have to stay," she said. "I'm sure you have better things to do than wait around for me." "Actually," Zachary replied, glancing at his watch, "Lily's in school until 3. I've got nowhere to be." He smiled, the gesture transforming his rugged face. "Besides, I'm kind of invested in finding out if you're okay now." Diana's expression softened. "Thank you, Zach." While Diana was being examined, Zachary stepped outside to call the school and explain that he'd be late picking up Lily. Mrs. Coleman, his elderly neighbor who watched Lily after school when needed, agreed to get her. "Is everything all right, Zach?" Mrs. Coleman asked, concern evident in her voice. "Just a minor accident," he assured her. "I'm helping someone out. I shouldn't be too late." When he returned to the waiting room, Diana was already there, her wrist bandaged and a butterfly closure on the cut above her eyebrow. "Diagnosis?" he asked, dropping into the chair beside her. "Sprained wrist, minor laceration, and apparently I'm very lucky," she reported. "The doctor wanted me to take it easy for a few days, but I've got a company to run." Zachary shook his head. "Let me guess you're heading straight back to the office." "Not exactly," Diana admitted. "Marcus arranged for a driver, but he won't be here for at least an hour. Traffic issues downtown." She hesitated. "Would it be too much trouble to ask for a ride to my home?" "It's not far, and I promise the company will compensate you for your time and for the damage to your car." "You don't need to pay me for helping," Zachary said firmly. "And the insurance will handle the car, but I'd be happy to drive you home." On the drive to Diana's address, which turned out to be in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in the city, Zachary found himself sharing more about his life than he had with anyone in years. He told her about teaching shop class to high schoolers who mostly saw it as an easy credit, about the small woodworking business he ran on weekends to make ends meet, and about Lily's passion for science and her dream of becoming an astronaut. "She sounds remarkable," Diana said, genuine interest warming her voice. "You must be very proud." "She's everything," Zachary said simply. "After her mom left, well, it was rough for a while, but Lily and I figured it out together." Diana's gaze lingered on his profile, the strong jaw, the laugh lines around his eyes that spoke of joy despite hardship. "That takes strength," she said quietly, "more than most people realize." When they arrived at Diana's home, a stunning modern masterpiece of glass and stone, Zachary let out a low whistle. "Quite a step up from my 2-bedroom rental." Diana laughed, the sound surprisingly carefree given her earlier ordeal. "It's just a house," she said, though they both knew it was much more. She hesitated, her hand on the door handle. "Would you like to come in for coffee? It's the least I can offer after everything." Zachary checked the time. "I should probably head out soon to pick up Lily, but—" "Yeah, coffee would be great." The interior of Diana's home was exactly what Zachary expected: sleek, elegant, and undoubtedly expensive, but with surprising touches of warmth. Colorful throw pillows, framed photographs, shelves lined with well-worn books. "Nice place," he said, following her into a kitchen that was larger than his entire apartment, "though it seems pretty big for one person." Diana shrugged, wincing slightly as the movement jarred her wrist. "I had dreams of filling it someday," she admitted, moving to the coffee maker. "But building a company doesn't leave much time for building a family." Zachary gently intercepted her. "Let me do that," he insisted, taking over the coffee preparation. "Doctor's orders, remember, you're supposed to rest that wrist." As he worked, Diana leaned against the counter watching him. "You're very capable," she observed. "Single dad," he replied with a smile. "You either learn to be capable or you drown." They carried their coffee to Diana's living room, where floor-to-ceiling windows offered a spectacular view of the city skyline. Conversation flowed easily between them, spanning topics from favorite books to travel destinations to the challenges of their vastly different careers. "How did you end up as a CEO?" Zachary asked, genuinely curious. "Was that always the plan?" Diana's expression grew thoughtful. "Not exactly. I studied engineering because I loved solving problems. The company started as just me in a garage with an idea for more efficient solar panels." She smiled at the memory. 10 years and a lot of all-nighters later, here we are." "That's impressive," Zachary said, admiration evident in his voice. "You built something important." "So have you," Diana countered. "From everything you've said about Lily, you've raised an extraordinary child." Their eyes met, and for a moment neither spoke. Then Zachary's phone chimed with a text message. "That's my neighbor," he said, checking the screen. "Lily's home from school," Diana nodded, setting down her coffee cup. "Of course, you should go." As Zachary rose to leave, Diana impulsively reached for a business card from a small holder on the coffee table. "My personal number is on the back," she said, handing it to him. "In case you want to let me know how your car repairs are going." Zachary accepted the card, his fingers brushing hers again. "I will," he promised, though they both knew the car wasn't what she was really asking about. On the drive home, Zachary couldn't stop thinking about Diana, not her wealth or status, but the quiet strength in her eyes and the way she'd listened to him talk about Lily, as if nothing could be more important. It had been a long time since anyone had looked at him that way. When he arrived home, Lily bounded down the apartment steps to greet him, her dark curls bouncing and her backpack nearly as big as she was. "Dad, Mrs. Coleman said you were in an accident. Are you okay? Where's your car? Did you break any bones? Can I see?" The questions tumbled out in typical 8-year-old fashion. Zachary scooped her up in a bear hug. "I'm fine, Lillipad, just a fender bender. The car's a bit banged up, but nothing serious. Who was the other driver? Were they mad at you?" Zachary set her down, taking her backpack as they walked upstairs. "Actually, it was a very nice lady named Diana. She hurt her wrist, so I took her to the doctor." "Is she your friend now?" Lily asked with the direct simplicity of children. "I'm not sure," Zachary answered honestly. "Maybe." That evening, after Lily was asleep, Zachary found himself staring at Diana's business card. Before he could overthink it, he sent a simple text. "Thanks again for the coffee. The car's at the shop, but the mechanic thinks it's fixable. Hope the wrist is feeling better." Zach, the reply came almost immediately. "The wrist is healing. The company less so without me there to micromanage. Thank you again for your kindness today. I'd like to repay you properly. Dinner, perhaps?" Zachary's heart raced as he typed his response. "Dinner sounds great." Though full disclosure, I'm a package deal these days. Diana's reply made him smile. "I'd be disappointed if you didn't bring Lily. How does Saturday sound? I know a place with excellent mac and cheese." Saturday arrived with a mixture of anticipation and anxiety for Zachary. He'd explained to Lily that they were having dinner with a new friend, carefully managing her expectations while trying to quiet his own conflicting emotions. What was he doing? Diana Fairchild lived in a different universe from his one of board meetings and business deals, not parent-teacher conferences and discount grocery shopping. "Is this okay?" he asked Lily, who was critically examining his outfit, his best jeans and a button-down shirt that he'd actually ironed. "You look handsome," Lily declared, straightening his collar with the seriousness of a stylist. She herself was wearing her favorite dress, purple with silver stars, and had insisted on wearing the sparkly headband her grandmother had sent for Christmas. When they arrived at the restaurant, an upscale bistro that Zachary had never dared enter before Diana was already waiting. She wore a simple blue dress that somehow managed to look both casual and elegant, her injured wrist now in a less cumbersome brace. "You must be Lily," Diana said warmly, extending her good hand to Zachary's daughter. "Your dad has told me so much about you." Lily shook her hand solemnly. "He told me you got hurt in the accident. Does your arm still hurt?" "Only a little," Diana assured her. "Your dad took very good care of me." "He's good at taking care of people," Lily agreed. "He makes the best chicken soup when I'm sick." As they were seated, Zachary noticed several patrons doing double takes at Diana, clearly recognizing the famous CEO. He shifted uncomfortably, but Diana seemed completely focused on Lily, asking her about school and her interests with genuine curiosity. "Dad says you run a company that makes things for the environment," Lily said as she carefully studied the children's menu. Diana nodded. "That's right. We design solar panels devices that turn sunlight into electricity." Lily's eyes widened. "Like in my science book, we learned about renewable energy last month. I did my project on wind turbines." "Did you really?" Diana looked genuinely impressed. "You know, my company is working on new wind turbine designs too." The conversation flowed naturally from there, with Lily bombarding Diana with questions about science and technology that Diana answered with patient enthusiasm. Zachary watched in amazement as his daughter and this accomplished woman bonded over sustainable energy solutions and the Mars rover. "You've raised an extraordinary young scientist," Diana told him when Lily excused herself to the restroom. "She gets her brains from her mother," Zachary said, then immediately regretted mentioning his ex. Diana's expression remained open, curious rather than jealous. "And her heart from you, I think." The evening passed in a blur of good food, better conversation, and Lily's infectious laughter. When Diana insisted on picking up the check despite Zachary's protests, Lily leaned over and whispered loudly, "Dad says it's polite to let someone pay if they offer, especially if they're trying to say thank you." Diana's eyes danced with amusement. "Your dad is very wise." Outside the restaurant, an awkward moment hung between the adults as Lily chased a fallen leaf across the sidewalk. "This was nice," Zachary said, suddenly feeling like a teenager again. "It was," Diana agreed. "I can't remember the last time I enjoyed a dinner so much." She hesitated, then added, "I'm having a small gathering at my house next weekend, just a few friends for a casual dinner. I'd love it if you and Lily could come." Zachary's initial instinct was to decline to protect himself from the inevitable moment when Diana realized how little they had in common. But then he looked at Lily, who was watching them with hopeful eyes, and at Diana, whose expression held no guile or hidden agenda. "We'd like that," he said instead. Over the following weeks, what began as gratitude evolved into genuine friendship. Diana joined them for movie night at Zachary's modest apartment, not batting an eye at the mismatched furniture or the crayon artwork taped to the refrigerator. Zachary and Lily attended a charity gala as Diana's guests, where he felt out of place until Diana introduced him to everyone simply as Zach, the most honest person I know. They fell into a comfortable rhythm, with Diana often working from Zachary's kitchen table while he graded papers and Lily did homework. On weekends, Zachary would sometimes bring his woodworking tools to Diana's house, building bookshelves for her office while she caught up on emails, and Lily experimented with the child-friendly laboratory equipment Diana had bought her. "You don't have to do all this," Zachary said one evening, gesturing to the science kit Diana had given Lily for her half-birthday. "I know," Diana replied simply. "I want to." It was a month into their friendship when Diana received a call that her father had suffered a heart attack in Florida. Without hesitation, Zachary drove her to the airport, waiting with her until her flight was called. "I'll be back as soon as I can," she promised, squeezing his hand. "Take all the time you need," he assured her. "We'll be here." During the week Diana was gone, Zachary was surprised by how empty his life felt without her. He and Lily sent her daily text updates, and Diana responded with stories about her recovering father and her chaotic extended family. When Diana returned, exhausted but relieved that her father was on the mend, she came straight to Zachary's apartment. Lily was at a sleepover, and for the first time they were truly alone. "I missed you," Diana admitted, standing in his small living room. "Both of you, is that strange? We've only known each other a few months." "I missed you too," Zachary said, taking a step closer. "Every day." The kiss, when it finally happened, felt like the most natural thing in the world, as if they'd been moving toward this moment since that snowy day at the intersection. When they told Lily about their relationship, her response was a matter of fact. "I already knew that. You look at each other like people in love do on TV." The transition from friendship to romance brought its challenges. Diana's work often demanded long hours and international travel. Zachary struggled with insecurities about their different social statuses, especially when tabloids began publishing photos of them together, speculating about the mystery man in Diana Fairchild's life. Their first real argument came after a dinner party at Diana's home, where Zachary had overheard one of her colleagues making dismissive remarks about blue-collar work. Diana hadn't been present for the comment, and when Zachary mentioned it later, she was horrified. "You know I don't think that way," she said, distressed. "What I do isn't more important than what you do." "Isn't it?" Zachary challenged. "You're changing the world, Diana. I'm teaching teenagers how to build birdhouses." "And raising a daughter who might cure cancer someday," Diana countered. "And showing those teenagers that creating something with your hands has value, and being the kind of person who stops to help strangers after accidents." She took his face in her hands. "Your worth isn't measured by your bank account or your job title, Zach." The tension dissolved, replaced by a deeper understanding. That night, as they lay together in the quiet darkness of her bedroom, Zachary realized he was falling in love with her not because of her wealth or status, but because of the person she was beneath all that. Brilliant, compassionate, and unexpectedly vulnerable. 6 months after the accident that brought them together, Diana invited Zachary and Lily to join her for a weekend at her beach house, a modern masterpiece perched on the coastline 2 hours from the city. Lily was ecstatic, having never seen the ocean before. As they watched Lily collecting shells at the water's edge, Diana slipped her hand into Zachary's. "I've been thinking," she said hesitantly. "That sounds dangerous," he teased. "My lease on the city house is ending next month," she continued, her voice carefully neutral. "I was considering looking for something different." Zachary turned to face her, sensing the weight behind her words. "Different how? Something closer to Lily's school, perhaps, with a good workshop space for you and maybe a yard." She met his eyes. "I'm not suggesting we rush into anything, but I'd like us to consider what a future together might look like." Zachary was quiet for a long moment, watching his daughter laughing in the surf. "You know my place is too small for 3, he finally said. "I wasn't suggesting, let me finish," he interrupted gently. "My apartment's too small and your house is. Well, it's beautiful but it feels like a museum sometimes. I think we need somewhere that's ours together, somewhere new." Diana's smile was radiant. "I'd like that." That evening, after Lily had fallen asleep, exhausted from her day at the beach, Zachary and Diana sat on the deck overlooking the moonlit ocean. "There's something I've wanted to ask you," Zachary said, his voice uncharacteristically nervous. "Why me?" "You could have someone from your world, someone who understands business and technology and all the things I'm still learning about." Diana was quiet for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "Do you remember what you said to me in the urgent care waiting room?" "When I told you that you didn't have to stay," Zachary shook his head. "You said you were invested in finding out if I was okay," Diana reminded him. "Not because I was Diana Fairchild, CEO, but just because I was a person who might need help." She reached for his hand. "Do you know how rare that is in my life? People who see me, not my company or my bank account." She moved closer, resting her head against his shoulder. "The truth is, I was tired of my world long before I met you. Success is wonderful, but it's hollow without someone to share it with." "Someone real." Zachary wrapped his arm around her. "I'm about as real as they come," he joked. "Just ask my mortgage company." "You're the most authentic person I've ever known," Diana said seriously, "and watching you with Lily. The way you love her, the way you put her first without resentment or complaint. That's what made me fall in love with you." The word hung between them, precious and new. Zachary turned to face her fully. "I love you too," he said, the words both terrifying and liberating. "Not because of what you have, but because of who you are." 3 months later, they found the perfect house, a spacious craftsman with good bones in need of some renovation, halfway between Lily's school and Diana's office. Zachary insisted on contributing what he could to the purchase, and Diana respected his pride while ensuring Lily would have the education fund and opportunities she deserved. The day they moved in, Diana leaving behind her pristine modern furniture, in favor of pieces they chose together, Lily raced through the empty rooms, her footsteps echoing against the hardwood floors. "This is the best day ever," she declared, spinning in circles in what would be their living room. Diana slipped her arm around Zachary's waist. "She's right, you know." Zachary pulled her closer. "Not quite," he disagreed, thinking of the small velvet box hidden in his toolbox, waiting for the perfect moment. "But we're getting there." That evening, after the moving trucks had departed and they'd picnicked on the floor of their new kitchen, Lily announced she was going to explore the backyard for science. Alone in the kitchen, Zachary took Diana's hand. "I had this whole plan," he said, shaking his head. "Romantic dinner, maybe the spot where we had our first kiss. But standing here, in this house that's going to be our home, it feels right to ask you now." Diana's eyes widened as he reached into his pocket and dropped to one knee. "I never thought I'd find someone like you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "Someone who sees the best in me, who loves Lily like she's her own, who fits into our lives as if she was always meant to be there." He opened the box, revealing a ring with a simple but elegant diamond. "It's not as fancy as what you're used to, it's perfect," Diana interrupted, tears shining in her eyes. "Diana Fairchild," Zachary continued, "will you marry me? Will you build a life with us? Not because of some accident that brought us together, but because we choose each other every day." "Yes," Diana whispered, pulling him to his feet. "1,000 times yes." As they embraced, Lily's voice called from the backyard. "Dad, Diana, come quick, I found a nest with baby birds." They looked at each other and laughed. "Duty calls," Zachary said, slipping the ring onto Diana's finger. "Our duty," Diana corrected him, lacing her fingers through his. "Our family." Hand in hand, they walked out into the gathering twilight, toward Lily and the life they would build together, not perfect, perhaps, but perfectly theirs. And as Diana watched Zachary lift his daughter to see the tiny birds, she thanked whatever twist of fate had sent her car spinning on that icy road months ago, setting her on a collision course with the love she hadn't known she was searching for.